Good morning. Today's presentation for the emergency management briefings that we're conducting will be the final part of a three-part series of the Run, Hide, and Fight active shooter response training. So this is going to be about fighting back. Arguably, this is definitely one of those subjects that people are going to be a little bit uncomfortable with because it does involve confrontation. But if it comes down to the situation where your life is at stake, this is a very important one for you to be aware of. So again, this will be the last one of that series of Run, Hide, and Fight, and it is the final confrontation, if necessary, installation of that series. So in the previous two sessions, we talked a little bit about an active shooter situation. Your first response obviously is to try to extract yourself from the situation, try to get out in whatever fashion you can down a corridor, through an exit point, and so forth. So running is the most preferred solution to get out of the conflict zone or the gunfire zone, or basically to get yourself safe and removed. If you can't run or escape, the second installation was talking about hiding, finding ways to conceal yourself, getting yourself into an office that can be locked or barricaded. And today we're going to basically encapsulate the entire program with talking about confrontation. Again, it's not pleasant, but the reality is that being able to think things through and to plan your ability to fight back could in fact determine whether you survive or not. So this is an important installation in this series, and it's a hard one to talk about, but the reality is if it ever comes down to this, this is definitely something that you need to have in your repertoire. So before we get into the substance of this presentation, I would like to point out that AWWD Water and Wastewater District has a very clear policy on the presence of weapons within our facilities. So despite everything you might be hearing, the one key thing that I do want to emphasize here is that we do not permit weapons on our property. And that includes in our vehicles, that includes on the grounds of our property, in our facilities, as well as obviously our administrative and maintenance and operation spaces, as well as the treatment facility. So that's an important caveat for us to address right off the bat. But what follows gives you an ability to think things through if you do have to fight in order to confront or to neutralize an active shooter. So let's move ahead now with a quick video for everybody to kind of look at. Once again, it might have some strong imagery in it, but it is important for you to understand all the components. So here's that video.
Hi, can I get you started with drinks?
Oh, sorry, I gotta take this.
We'll need a minute.
No, I'm good. You got me? Sorry, sir.
Now you need to back up. You can't be here anymore. Get out of my face, man. You think I'm afraid of you? Hey, get off, man.
911, there's a connect.
Running makes you harder to hit and improves your chances of survival. Don't go up here.
Police, where is he?
By the bar, blue jeans, black shirt. Empty hands up, follow their instructions.
I'm in the direct line of fire if I head for either exit, but I have other options to help me survive. Guys, come on, in here. Come on. Go, go, go. Lock and barricade the door.
Both my exits are blocked by the shooter. I gotta stay hidden. I'm no victim. I'm ready for this.
He's applying direct pressure to the wound to stop the bleeding until we can find a tourniquet. In the meantime, turn off your phones and make a plan to defend yourself.
to survive. If you control the weapon, you control the shooter. I'll go for the gun. He'll go for his arms. The bartender will go for the head.
Where is he?
We got him right here. Stay down.
Please, show me your hands!
Over here.
You can survive a mass shooting if you're prepared. Remember, run, hide, or fight. Run. Wherever you go, be aware of alternate exits. Quickly and cautiously evacuate in a direction away from the attacker. Don't hesitate. Seconds matter. Remember windows and emergency exits. Leave belongings behind. Keep your empty hands raised and clearly visible when exiting a building. Follow all instructions from the police. Don't stop until you're sure you've reached a safe location. Hide. If there is no safe escape route, find a good hiding place. Lock and barricade the door. Silence cell phones. Prepare a defense plan. Fight. Fight only as a last resort. Use available objects as improvised weapons. Use teamwork and surprise. A coordinated ambush can incapacitate an attacker. You're fighting for your life. Don't fight fair. Stop the bleed. A victim can die of uncontrolled blood loss in 5 minutes or less. Apply pressure or a tourniquet to control severe bleeding. Go to fbi.gov/survive to learn more.
So one additional element that really can help anybody in a situation where they may need to confront a shooter is to know a little bit about the kind of firearms that may be used in an event. And this might be unpalatable for some folks, I certainly understand that, but it does help you in learning how to best frame or respond and maybe try to confront a shooter. So one of the stats that I think is probably the most important is that about 56% of all active shooting incidents actually involve a pistol. That's a handgun, and it's usually operated by a single hand, and that means that there's certain things that you can look for how a handgun operates, and becoming familiar with these operations does once again help you. So pistols, essentially, they have anywhere between 9 to 18 rounds depending on the caliber, and a magazine could be extended to hold up to 40 rounds, but it's important to recognize that it's used by one hand. It has the shooter can actually move quite a bit and has a lot of flexibility with that, so that's important to know. 27% of active shooters use a rifle, and a lot of folks know that they're sometimes called ARs, assault rifles, long guns, and so forth. They're a little bit more unwieldy, and so it offers opportunities for people to get around a shooter, to disarm them, or maybe to confront them directly. And then finally, 14% of active shooters used a shotgun. That's a little bit more dangerous of firearm because it doesn't need to have perfect aim, but again, they usually have less capacity. Usually they're limited to about 8 rounds depending on what type of shotgun it is. But if you know a little bit about these different weapons, you'll also know the best approach to an active shooter. So again, the important thing to emphasize here is that when confronting an active shooter, your goal is to neutralize the shooter. And one really good way for you to do that is to take control of the firearm. Now, obviously, we're not talking about just a single person doing this. If you can get a large group of people to do this as well, it makes it a bit easier. But here's the premise. If you control the weapon, you can very likely control the shooter and neutralize the shooter. So look for the openings, look for the opportunities. If a gun is being reloaded, if it jams, those are openings for you to actually run up and confront the shooter too. And use whatever you have around you, whatever that you can throw, if there's things you can hit with, if there's things that you can strike with, fire extinguishers, those are usually really good tools and that kind of thing. But you're trying to, as difficult as this might sound, you're trying to neutralize the shooter, injure the shooter, put the shooter down in a sense. So you've got to make sure that you are finishing the threat from continuing. So lots of different ways you can do that. Look over the slide and get some ideas about how you can sense an opening and then take advantage of that opening. So again, having some familiarity with the firearms that may be used is definitely very helpful if you do encounter a situation like this. So be aware of the business end of where the firearm is. Never cross in front of it. Try to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're moving into the frame of where the shooter might be able to discharge their weapon. Keep in mind that firearms do get hot, especially if the shooter has been firing a number of rounds. So there's areas of the barrel that you do want try not to touch with your hands if you're trying to wrestle that firearm away from the shooter as well. And then also be aware of some of the key points that you want to target to knock a shooter down. So you were talking about the face. The face is very fragile in a sense. Groin, very, very good target. Stomach, temple area, side of the neck. All these different locations are areas that are vulnerable to a shooter unless they're wearing some kind of armor or helmet, which is very unlikely. But again, be careful. Be aware of what components of the firearm are the business end, so to speak, as I mentioned earlier, and try to avoid those, but do everything you can to take that weapon away from the shooter and then neutralize them. So one really important thing to emphasize is that if and when it comes to a confrontation, the last thing you want to worry about is fighting fair. At this point, your goal is to stop the shooter from being able to conduct any more injury or harm to anyone else, and that basically means you do what you need to do to make that shooter unable to act any further. So it's always a good idea to try to coordinate your activities with other people if possible. You want to rush the shooter. You want to put as much force, be as aggressive as possible. If you have to scream, all of that really helps build the psychological courage, strength, and fortitude to be able to take on an attacker. Now, it's important to recognize that if and when it comes to this could potentially be your life at stake. And so you would be fighting as if you're fighting because you actually are fighting for your life. So that means fighting fair. Anything that doesn't focus on neutralizing the shooter is out the window. You've got to do what you need to do to keep yourself and the people around you safe. And again, keep in mind that the first thought is that if you can neutralize the weapon or if you can control the weapon, you have very likely got control of the shooter as well. So keep that in mind. It's basically, this is the time for aggression. This is the time to take anything, any kind of courage or action that you need to take and build up within you to end the situation. So this slide will give you some ideas of target points, so to speak. And there's also a short video that will help you kind of understand the whole process of disarming. A little bit corny, but definitely there's a point there. So let's take a look at the video, and hopefully this will give you some ideas if it ever gets to this point.
Okay, the most important thing is to disrupt the mechanism of the firearm. If it's a semi-automatic pistol, at that point when I come from the side, it's important to emphasize I don't want to come from here. This is line of fire, okay? I'm coming and I'm locking my hand on the gun. At that point, the gun will jump as you press the trigger. That's it. The slide will not be able to cycle. Therefore, the gun will jam. And from here, I can, boom, take the gun, either clear the jump if he come at me. Boom, 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 boom. He's done. You cannot fire.
The key is to hold that gun as tight as possible.
Yes. The second thing, I come from the side and I release the magazine. I press here on the mag release. You see? Release the magazine. Let's move on. the M4. Carabin. Again, fire, lower the gun down. As he fires, boom, 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 boom. Come here, press the mag release, take it, come, bam, bam, bam. If I know how to take the rifle properly, come from here, take it, you come, bam, 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 boom. That's it. The last thing is a knife or a box cutter. Okay? At this point, if he's the shooter, and I have a box cutter or tactical folding knife, come from here. I can cut here, the thumb. You're gonna lose it. You're gonna lose the grip here. At that point, I'm lowering the weapon down. If he still fight me, shove it to the eye, or cut here, the carotid artery. Okay? At this point, I can simply take the weapon. You're gonna be in deep trouble. Okay? If you hold the weapon, come from the rear, coming from here, come underneath, can you see? And I cut. Cut, cut, cut. You're losing the grip, you can have the weapon. Police arrive, throw the weapon, throw the knife, and I'm safe. Now, if you
So again, I will wrap up that this is a pretty difficult presentation to offer, but I think it is important because in the course of our lives, there's a chance that we'll either know of an active shooting event or hopefully not experience one ourselves. But the key thing is that being prepared is the best way for us to kind of plan our response and of course our resilience as a part of that process too. So later on this year, what we're going to try to do is, and we'll figure out the logistics behind this, but we'll build a practical exercise where we actually role play some of these items that we've come through the entire program, run, hide, and fight, so that you have an idea to really put all these concepts together with your specific place of employment. All of this will help you prepare in event of any kind of eventuality or active shooting event. So that will happen later on this summer. We're still trying to figure out the logistics behind that. But either way, putting the theory together with a little bit of practice is definitely going to improve your preparation for any events like that. So be on the lookout for that next step in this entire training program. So with that, that's our program for today.